To this week's episode of Coffee with a Career Coach. I am joined by a very special employer guest, which I will let introduce in just a moment. For those of you who haven't joined us before, my name is Erica O'Toole, and I am the Associate Director of the Career Development Center. And we do this series as just to get to a way to get to know our office and then also our employer partners. We do another series with interns, and so really awesome. Tune in throughout the summer as well as we'll be continuing to host these. But I'm going to go ahead and get us started today. We always talk about what we have in our coffee. So I got Starbucks because it's right
Yeah,
next door to my office, which is wonderful, with just a little bit of cream in it. So
yeah.
I'll hand it over to DJ.
Thank you. I have my Starbucks as well. I was definitely
Nice.
prepared for this morning. My name is DJ Bridges. I lead our university relations team over at Rocket, and I'm excited to be here. I've been with our company for 8.5 years, going on 9, and I've had the awesome opportunity to work out of our downtown Detroit office space, and so definitely very, very cool to be on with Central today. Obviously, it's one of the universities that we have a lot of team members working for our company from. So I know I hear fire up all the time in the office.
Absolutely. That's huge for us.
Yeah.
All right. So, DJ, can you tell me a little bit about your company?
Yeah, for sure. So as I mentioned, we are our rocket companies, and we're based out of downtown Detroit. We are a financial services company that really takes the opportunity to help clients and people across the country get into a better spot financially. So what does that mean? One of our true missions or true goals is to help everyone achieve that financial freedom through multiple avenues of financial services. So that could be a mortgage, which is kind of the bread and butter or heartbeat of our company. If you are familiar with Rocket Mortgage, that is how this whole thing started, mortgages. And so if there's someone out there who wants to buy a home or refinance a home that they already own, we're the place to go for that. But that's expanded into many more avenues of financial services. So personal loans, auto loans, the opportunity to help with your personal finance is something that we just rolled into our company, which is Rocket Money, one of the most exciting apps that are out there right now to help you with your budgeting and personal finance. So, overall, we have opportunities that fall within sales, technology, human resources, accounting and finance, as well as marketing. And there's a lot of opportunities as well as a very strong culture here to set you up for success.
That's awesome. I mean, what a great opportunity for our students because it sounds like there's a ton of different aspects of the company, right? So
Yeah.
that gives students such a big opportunity. Um, and you kind of already touched on this, but what majors are you looking to hire?
Yeah, so there's a plethora of majors that we, accept. I know I went through a few of our business areas, but if you have a major that falls under those areas that I mentioned, or anything that correlates with those majors. So I know business is a huge thing, right? And I didn't say a specific business area at our company, but that falls into multiple things. That could be sales, that could be human resources, that could be marketing. So if you have a different concentration that falls under those, that works as well. But usually I always say we don't have any majors that we usually just say like, hey, sorry, no thanks. We're open to so many majors. And I think that's what makes us unique, in the market for talent is we're very open to majors. I would say the only major that we don't have a ton of offerings for is in healthcare because we are a financial services company. But we did open a healthcare facility in downtown Detroit, and that group did take on an intern the past 2 summers. So obviously there's one role there, and so we never say never. We're always evolving and expanding. There was a time where we started with only sales interns, and we've blossomed right over years and years of taking on a lot more technology interns, marketing, human resources, and technology is a huge piece of what we're doing today because we're an online financial services company, and so we need that strong talent to be able to help continue to move us forward.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I know that we have a lot of interns like you mentioned earlier that go into the program.
Yep,
But yeah, what a great opportunity and a company with so many different things to offer.
for sure.
So we in the Career Development Center advise on resumes a lot and
Mhm.
cover letters and application materials. So could you share with me any specifics you look for on a resume during the hiring process?
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that we talk about is formatting and grammar. I think those are kind of like, for lack of better terms, the ante to play. Like, kind of, you have to have these things down pat when you're submitting a resume, because that's one of the first things that employers look at. So I would make sure that your formatting is all correct, as well as your grammar as well. Definitely a true tale of your attention to detail when you look at a resume right off the bat. But it's really important to have a structure of pretty much education at the top, some of your work experience, right? Some of your skills, depending obviously on your background, what those skills are. Could be technical skills, or it could be other types of skills that are transferable. Some people add in their volunteering experience, right? That could be a fit. Some people add in their extracurricular experience. So I would say you obviously got to have kind of the meat and potatoes of your education, your work experience, right? And then your skills. And then from there, you can add in what separates you from your peers. I think that's really important with the resume, is to have things on there that you feel separate you from your peers. And so, we look for bullet points that really um, showcase what your experience was with, say, a specific piece of um, work that you did in the classroom, or an internship or job experience. So I would say on your bullet points, please be, very straightforward with, what the experience was. If you can use numbers to articulate that as well, that helps a ton. For us, a cover letter isn't mandatory in our recruiting process. It isn't something that will hurt you if you do add one, but isn't something that is required. So if you do apply and submit a resume without it, it won't hinder you. But obviously, I've seen a ton of color cover letters. It obviously gives you an opportunity to give a little bit more detail about yourself. So if you are creating one, I definitely would say just obviously make sure it articulates who you are the right way, to give somebody a little bit of better impression. Because when you look at a resume, obviously you can only see so much on a resume before you talk to somebody. So that cover letter gives a little bit more detail on you and what you're looking for and what your goals are, obviously, overall with trying to obtain the role.
Absolutely. And you touched on so many of the things that we talk about with our
Love it.
students too. I'm glad that you touched right on grammar, spelling, all of that,
Yeah,
because it's such a huge thing that people don't really think about when they're submitting, right? They're worried about all the content and figuring all that out, but really having people read it a couple times, because that can be a huge
100%.
thing.
Yeah, it could be a huge thing. That's the one thing that, I recommend. And we do resume reviews. So if
Oh,
there are students out there that, want an employer to look at their resume, we're definitely open. But we give feedback. And, there's been times where we meet with a student, give them some feedback on their resume, and they retool it, they submit it, and then they're able to obviously hop into an internship because of some of the changes that they made. So very grateful, obviously,
awesome.
for the opportunity there to give feedback, because at our company, feedback is a gift. And so, being able to help someone enhance their resume is a really cool thing. But, I would definitely say, like you said, hey, can you read over my resume? Because the one thing that we see is you've been staring at it for so long. Some of the things, it might just slip through the cracks because you've been looking at it, or the information so well. I know we all probably have had a paper in school, right? Or some work that we've done for school, where it's like, oh man, I missed that because I've just been staring at it for hours. And so we do
Absolutely.
that with our company every single day. It's like, hey, can you take a look at this email, or can you take a look at this project that I've been looking on, or Excel spreadsheet? It definitely helps.
Yeah. And that's awesome that you guys provide resume reviews. I didn't realize that. What a cool opportunity for our students.
Yeah, for sure.
So, along the same lines, do you have any suggestions for students who are interviewing? I know that can be kind of a nerve wracking process for some of our students.
Yeah, for sure. I do have a couple of thoughts. So, one thing that I would always say, and we always talk about on my team, is to research the company that you are interviewing for, right? So go to their company website. If you know folks that work for that company, obviously ask them a little bit about their experience or perspective. But I think the big thing to do is go on the company website and do some research, right? Everybody can go to the homepage of a careers site for a company, but can you continue to dig deeper and look at the different pages that they have about their culture or about their, let's say, DEI, right? About the different teams. Maybe there's a page in there about a team that you are interested in. Go dig deep on there and do some research so that you have some background on the company that you can articulate to that recruiter. Or you find something that you are curious about and you want to ask a couple more questions about. We've had a ton of students who was like, hey, I was on your company website. I saw this. Can you explain this a little bit more? So that's super important. And the other thing I would say is when you're talking about yourself and your own experience, please make sure that you story tell. I think that's really, really important. Tell a story, right? The recruiter had the opportunity to look at your resume and they read the bullet points, right? So when you get an interview, don't just reread the bullet points. Give a story about how you actually accomplished whatever is on your resume, or you went about solving the problem, that is articulated with a certain piece of work on your resume. So I definitely think those are two big things. I always, hear recruiters talking about, well, the story that this person told me or the example this person gave stuck with me. And you're able to articulate that to hiring leaders who then are able to make that hiring decision based off of, the different opportunities that you're able to articulate to the recruiter.
Absolutely. I think that's great advice. Do you look at social media when hiring? I know this is something that we talk to our students about a lot. Make sure you're keeping
Yeah.
your social media professional, you're using those security settings. Is this something that you guys use?
Yeah, for sure. So our team, when we go through the background process, does a thorough evaluation, let's call it that, of social media. And so, I'll call out. It really matters what you post online. So I would definitely be dialed into what you post online. And a recommendation, obviously, it's up to you. It's your social media what you post. But if I had any recommendations, I would post, um I would say post things that represent who you are, and kind of things that you stand behind, and not things that could hinder anything in your future in terms of a job or an opportunity. We've had instances where someone has received an offer and then they go through the process of background for us, and there's a couple things that are flagged on their social media, and that offer, unfortunately, has to get rescinded because of that. And so definitely social media plays a portion in that. If I had another recommendation, I would say private social media accounts is where you for sure start. And then, if you are utilizing it, making sure once again you're posting the right things online. LinkedIn is a great social media application for you to post. The great things that you're doing. I love to see students posting great things on LinkedIn, and I know our team looks at LinkedIn as well. It's a really great place to learn a little bit more about someone that's applying for either an internship or a full-time role overall.
Absolutely. So we're kind of towards the end, which is crazy. I feel like the
Yeah.
time went super quick.
hmm
Um, but I always like to ask anyone who's on with me if they have
hmm
any general advice to share with our students.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to talk about transferable skills. So, that's something that's super important, not just with our company, but overall. When you're in college, take the opportunity to hone in on what your transferable skills are, because, a career is long, right? An internship, theoretically is 3 months, but, every single day getting better, is definitely a process and a journey. And so if you're able to develop transferable skills, you'll be an individual that companies really feel like they need to keep around, right? If you have only one skill, can only do one thing, that makes it a little bit tougher for you to have that mobility inside of a company, right? Or if that kind of skill set isn't needed anymore, and that's the only one you have, it makes it tough for you to be able to stay in a role like that where that skill might not be needed. But if you have multiple skills, you have the opportunity to say, for lack of better terms, flex, right, into a different role and utilize that skill set. Or maybe you're just a team member that can offer more than one type of skill in the role that you're in, that benefits your team, right? That makes you a stronger team member, that makes people rely on you. And I think that's something that we see a lot in interns is, hey, do they have transferable skills that'll help them? So you think about leadership is a transferable skill, right? You can be a leader within sales, you can be a leader within human resources, marketing, so that's one that transfers over very well. And then you think through a few others, being coachable, right? Being able to adapt. Communication, I think, is a huge one. Can you communicate at a high level? There are a lot of folks out there that are great at public speaking, right? That's a transferable skill. So I would just hone in on what those transferable slash, you can call them soft skills are, because they will take you a long way. That's definitely really good advice I've got in the past, and so definitely want to pass it on to those out there.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that because so many of our students, are working through college and they have those part time jobs. And maybe sometimes they don't really realize how they're going to transfer into a full time job, right? Or how they can sell themselves on a resume. And so those transferable skills are huge. So I'm really glad you touched on that.
Yeah. One other thing that I would add to that is, for internships specifically, um, obviously when you have the opportunity to get into an internship, it is a 3 month basically interview, that the company has the opportunity, to, evaluate you on. But on the flip side, it's you obviously having 3 months to interview that company and see if that's the place for you as well. So that's big. We talk to our interns and incoming students about that all the time. Like, hey, you're interviewing us to see if this is a place you want to be. It's not, it's a match for both of us, right? So we want to make sure that works on both sides. And then the other thing I would say is, you know, everybody wants to figure out, what they want to do, right? You hear that question a lot of times from friends, from family, from your advisor. Hey, what do you want to do? It's always good to find out what you don't want to do as well, right? That'll help you get closer to what you do want to do. So if you take on opportunities or shadow, right? Or have the opportunity to have one-on-ones with folks in different industries, I could help you figure out what you don't want to do, because once again, it'll lead you closer to what you do want to do. So if you have a list or a couple of things where you're like, hey, I'm interested in these few things, try to seek out opportunities to shadow, to have one-on-ones with folks in those industries. Or if you're obviously able enough to get an internship in multiple industries, you're able to decipher what you really want to do. So that would be my other piece of advice is, if you're having a hard time figuring out what you want to do, try to figure out what it is that you don't like or don't enjoy doing, and that'll help you get closer to what you do want to do to find the right role.
Absolutely. I think that's awesome advice. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
For
I feel
sure.
like we got to learn a lot of really great stuff about the company. You gave some awesome advice, so I hope our students are really taking this and using it when they're going to apply to different positions. But again, thank you so much for joining me. It was a pleasure speaking with you and learning about everything.
For
And
sure.
I hope all of you have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the
Thank you.
opportunity. Have a good weekend.
You too.